Well, welcome, YouTube friends and family, to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So today we are going to talk a little bit about having an emergency to-go bag. With all of the recent and very unusual tornadoes for December that went through multiple states with a great loss of property and certainly life, it got me to thinking maybe this is a video I should share with you. So stay tuned. Well, I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. I want to thank you all again for your thoughts and prayers for my son. He was able to come down. I will say Christmas Day, he felt pretty rough, but he is his mother's child and persevered. So by yesterday, and he had to go back home, he was feeling so much better. So that was really nice to see him be a little bit more himself. We cooked, we reminisced, we exchanged presents. My son is the most thoughtful present giver. And I will be sharing a couple things with you on my Throwback Thursday this week. So back to the topic of today, to-go bags or go bags, emergency bags. So I want to stress to you, it really depends on your area, what your shelter looks like, and what your weather threat is. I mean, some of you have hurricanes. We, unfortunately, where I live in Ohio, are really in what they call Tornado Alley. We've had frequent tornadoes through my lifetime. 2.5 years ago, the day I got home after a 5-day hospital stay from a 7-hour back surgery, 7-hour plus back surgery, we had a tornado that came through several towns, unfortunately, the one I live in included. So at the time, we had an open shelter, which was the basement of what used to be the parsonage a couple houses over. My neighbors that I've spoken about many times, the hubby came over and, I'm still in a walker with drains and bandages and miserable, and walked me to the shelter. We didn't have a lot of warning. The sirens were going off. And I did have quite a bit of damage to my home, but that's just things. And thankfully we were all safe when we were able to come out of the shelter. But it was many hours in the shelter. Because of the circumstance, I didn't have time to, I think I got my purse, and that was like it. Because, for ladies, your life is in your purse. However, I decided then and there I was going to make myself an emergency bag in case I had to leave the house. And one of the things that I struggled with, because I was in there for many hours, I didn't have access to my medication. So that was a bummer. But anyway, and I had to leave Frankie. There was no time. So let me show you first what I kind of have for Frankie, because, cat's most important. So this is a cat carrier, and believe it or not, Frankie is about too fat for it. But this is what I've always used, and I have a blanket inside. Let me see if I can, wrong end, show you here. Yeah, that, it smells like home. It smells like him. When I have to take him to the vet, I always, have the towel and I wash it each time. So he's got a little blankie should he need it. Then I need to move that dish. Frankie will walk on a harness. Now, not that I would walk him to a tornado shelter on the harness, but once you're in there, especially many hours, I don't want to leave him in his little bucket or carrier. So I would definitely put him on his harness, because he would be in an unfamiliar place. I wouldn't want him to get away. And he's really good. He likes his mommy. He doesn't go too far. I do have enough food for probably a couple days. And not that I plan on being in there a couple days, but emergencies, you really just don't know. And then one of his favorite babies, because Frankie won't even go to the vet without. This one's been well loved. I forget what it even is. Yeah, that's what it is. So I have that, and I keep the water in my bag. And actually down in the bucket, I just heard it peep, there are other toys, because, Frankie needs his toys. And excuse me for rubbing my nose. I must have snuffed up a cat hair. So that I could just put Frankie in quickly and off we go. And what I failed to share with you. So after that big tornado, my neighbor contacted FEMA and was able to get a government grant, if you will, for the FEMA shelter because we lost, the parsonage was sold off from the church property, so we no longer had access. And in my area, there aren't a lot of basements because there are a lot of underground springs and basements tend to be wet here. I'm not going to say there isn't any, but there's not a whole lot. So they had, and I forget how many thousands of pounds this thing weighed. It was a major ordeal, but they had a tornado shelter installed, invited all the close neighbors over that would have used the former shelter, and showed us how to lock ourselves in and get ourselves out. And it is really quite a thing. They have stored some provisions, I'll say some bottled water, some like tap lights and emergency lighting, so we wouldn't be totally in the dark. It is pretty small in there, I will share, but you know what? If a tornado is coming, it's fine. They also shared with me an ad that showed a car sitting on top, you know, that had gotten blown in a tornado, sitting on top of the shelter, and the shelter was unaffected. So I feel like that would be a really safe place. If there isn't enough warning, I would just go to an inner room here, which would be my laundry room. Anything surrounded by the most pipes is probably the safest place. And yeah, I've spent a few hours in there before we had access to shelters with Frankie under my arm in the closet, you know, hoping that it would blow over, and indeed it did. So what will I keep in my bag? Well, stay tuned to find out. The bag that I keep my emergency items in is impervious to water or waterproof. So if you had to travel, as I would, through the inclement weather to the shelter, everything that you have for safekeeping would not be soaking wet. So that's a big plus. It's pretty jammed. So the first thing I have in there is a long charge cord for my iPhone. And you might be like, well, what good is that going to do if you don't have electricity? Well, thankfully, I have a couple of these Anchor batteries, and this one actually is called All Powers. I have an Anchor one too, but this will charge my cell phone from completely dead 2.5 times. So I periodically do charge this, and guys, I keep my go bag ready at all times because not only do we have problems with tornadoes, we also have some very high winds sometimes with loss of power. That's why I have a generator. And during hurricane season, sometimes they will come up from the Gulf and go straight through Ohio. And while it's not the same hurricane that the coastal people experience, it can be some scary weather. So, second thing I have in here, totally frivolous, but is a puzzle book and a pencil, because let me tell you, just waiting for hours and hours can be a little bit challenging. This particular tornado shelter has a door with sort of like a ginormous Allen wrench where you lock the door in place. If the door were to get blocked, which the way it's situated, I would find that highly unlikely, but if it would, there is a window that also unscrews that you can then pull out, or a cutout. It's obviously not a glass window. Okay, one thing I missed that particular night was some kind of blanket to cover up with, because yes, indeed, I went in my pajamas because there was no time. All right. I do have some of these 9-hour candles, and it fits into like this little device, which I think is down in here as well. Wait, yeah. It's the candle holder. So this would be better if the tap lights run out. It would be better than having no light in a totally enclosed small space with multiple people. So I have those. I also have a snap light, which might be helpful when you exit the shelter if it's very dark. Obviously, a candle's going to blow out, so these are real handy to have as well. And you never know when you're going to need some wipes. Now, I will share that this particular shelter has no access to a restroom. So we're just gonna hope that doesn't become an issue. So maybe they'll put a porta john in there for emergencies. I hope we never need to be in there that long. All right. So what good are the candles without matches? Well, I do have a match kit, and this is watertight. And you know what? I've never opened it, so I don't think I will. It has on the side here, as you see, a little place for you to scratch or strike, excuse me, the match. So this would come in really handy for those candles. All right. This is kind of silly looking, but I'm telling you, it's a great thing. It is an aught light that you can put around your forehead, and I have to think about how you turn this on. Oh, like this. So there you go. So as I said, even though there are tap lights in there, if the power goes out or if you need to venture out and it is dark, it always seems like our tornadoes hit during non-daylight hours. So I have that. I have water. I have this emergency whistle, and it's super loud. I'm sorry, it's unscrewed. So, you know, if you need help, need rescue, it's a good way to call for assistance. My son made me these for Christmas, guys. I'm so thrilled with them. So I opened it up and I'm like, well, what is that? So they are watertight. You unscrew it, and there are batteries inside. These are AA. Hang on. These are AAA. And he actually 3D designed and 3D printed these so that I would have them for my go bag. You know, if there's a battery operated radio, which there is, like a weather radio in our shelter, that would be a great thing to have. And he also taught me some of the coin type batteries that are good for a lot of devices. So I feel like I'm pretty well equipped now in the battery department. And then finally, every good nurse has a first aid kit. So the folks that would be in the shelter with me, I would definitely be one of the junior members, so some seniors. So inside here are cleansing wipes, there are bandages, gosh, there's just everything. There's gloves. There is, I believe, an emergency blanket, like if someone goes into shock, like one of those plasticky type of blankets. So this is definitely a good thing to have. I also don't have sitting right here, but I do keep an emergency supply of medication. So it's not that I would need medication for an emergency, but it's good to have some simple things like aspirin in case someone starts to have cardiac symptoms. We know that that can greatly help. Same for a stroke. So yeah, I have a little pill minder, which I'm not sure why it's not in here, so I need to get it in there. So drop me a comment below. First of all, do you have a go bag for an emergency? And if so, what do you keep in it? I know there are so many more things. Might have to invest in a bigger bag, but these are things I think that could get you through like 24 hours. There is no food in here because there are snacks in the shelter. So as long as Frankie has food, I'm not terribly worried. So yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts, and I hope you all have had just a wonderful holiday. I certainly did. My son was just such a joy to have here. We just had the best time cooking and reminiscing and doing all the things that mother and sons do. So as always, be healthy, be well, be blessed, and I will see you on Thursday. Take care.